When COVID hit, 1.2 plus billion people were out of school, and that was everybody. And we suddenly realized that how people were learning was not good enough. How we were thinking about technology in classroom was not good enough. How we thought about teachers and teaching, certainly we were not thinking about it well enough. How we finance education and what it means to have safe schools and what it means to have healthy schools and inclusion. COVID showed us that actually we didn't have answers. And I think maybe we realize it now, in part because there was a moment in time when the whole world shut down the school doors. And that moment in which school stopped being school as we know it forced us to say, wait a minute, actually this is not working. This is not how it was working. This is not how it should work. This is not what we want for our children. And that, coupled with the Secretary General of the United Nations saying that this is an important issue, that SDG4 quality education is important, and it serves as a really base and pillar for all the other SDGs, was an important moment, because now the world leaders are thinking, the heads of these private institutions are thinking that they don't have employees. The employees are not coming with the skills that they need to move the ideas forward. So it's a mix of the UN Secretary General's call to action for all of us to think about transforming education. It's the reality of what happened in COVID. It's the private sector saying we do not have people leaving schools with the skills that they need to work and do this thinking, with government saying, well, our democracy is at risk because people have access to misinformation and they are not thinking. And other governments saying most of our kids don't have access to quality education. How are we going to build a workforce? All of these things are happening at the right time, at the same time, and it forced us all as a globe to say something is wrong with global education as it is, as we knew it, as we have it, and something needs to change for the future. It's really wonderful to have all of these ministers in one room, in one building, because people who you're collaborating with, is easy for somebody to pull you to the side to say, hey, I really like what you're doing. Hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's what we can learn from you. I think conversations, listening to ministers from Bangladesh getting pulled by a minister from Iceland or working with a minister from Rwanda, you're able to see that we all have the same problems. We all have the same problems, we all have the same goals and desire, and we all need to transform education. I think we are at the interesting moment in time when everybody realizes that, oh, wait, we have so much in common than apart in education. It doesn't matter whether you're in France, your students still have access to lots of misinformation and don't necessarily know how to think creatively and with regards to civic duty. If you're in America, the ways in which you're accessing information and making decisions is as challenged as if you're in Uganda. And if you're in Sierra Leone and you're thinking about gender, well, many people are also thinking about gender issues in the United States. So we have a lot more in common, that what is happening in education, it's not going to work for the future. It certainly hasn't worked for now, because we see that hundreds of millions of kids are out of school and hundreds of millions of kids don't have access to learning. It's too expensive to not invest in education. You have to allow the education budget to grow. You have to allow that we use the money that you have committed effectively and efficiently. You have to allow that we work with private sector and development partners to grow the pie of resources to education. Secondly, that colleagues and all of us can go back and make commitments not for the future. Transformation has to begin now. We have to have a shared purpose about what we need to do. We have to redesign the pedagogy. We have to redesign what it means to deliver education. And we have to do it at a system level, everybody. And I think today on stage, I pledged that now we have youth advisory within my team. But now I'm gonna make sure that by law they're part of the decision-making process within the ministry, and this is upping the ante for all of us. Because if we have a young person in the decision-making body, in the advisory body, then we have to listen to them, not just as a token, but they have a vote, they have a say, and they can participate. We need to get uncomfortable by inviting the civil society. They're not going to say things that we like all the time. By inviting the NGOs, they're going to be doing things that we don't think are in line with what we want to do, but that's what matters in that community, in that environment where they work in, especially when they're aligned with what the population and the community says. That's what I want. That's what the vision should be. And we commit our energies and our resources and our networks and our relationships to meeting those pledges that we said we'll do by 2030. I think it's possible to, even if not meet, we should be much closer to the goals of the SDG4 outcomes and targets. And when that happens, we will have to we will be grateful to ourselves for pushing that much, but certainly our children will be with us, and they will say, they will acknowledge the efforts that we made, they will acknowledge what we did, such that the world that we're creating for them will not be worse off than the world in which they were born into.